Since it's October, I think I might as well just talk about ranking horror franchises that I've already reviewed on my channel. So today I'm going to rank the Chucky films. All 7 Chucky films that have been released so far, I want to rank them all. And I've reviewed them all on this channel, so check them out if you haven't. And let's get started. My number 7 would be the most obvious answer, and it's Seed of Chucky, which... I don't hate this movie. I really don't. Honestly, I feel like whenever people rip on this movie, I don't think that this is awful at all. I think that this is a really entertaining, really fun, dumb movie. Like, I think people have the issue of it being so humorous. And yeah, Chucky and Freddy Krueger do the exact same thing, where they're very serious at the beginning of their films in the franchise, and then they get really incredibly silly. So I think it's funny that this one in particular just gets so much shit. And in terms of a movie, I don't think this is awful at all. I think this is a fun comedy. I thought that, and it's because it's a comedy, straight up. It's a straight up comedy. There's not really any horror in it. So that's why people despise this movie, and I don't care. I thought that the humor was fun. I thought these characters were fun. I thought that it was a fun satire on like them doing a Chucky movie within the Chucky universe. I thought that was really funny. So this one I don't hate, and it's my least favorite out of all of them. So from here on, it's totally fine because I don't hate this one. It's just my least favorite. It's just because, yeah, it is just a comedy. It doesn't have as much horror in it. But I can still rewatch this all the time, like with all the other films. I've never not rewatched this with all the other films. I always think this one is totally a fine one to watch over and over again, like the other ones. So people, I think, just love to complain. So, I mean, I'm not saying I don't understand why people don't like this movie, but I think that this movie is totally fine. I really don't think that this is that bad of a movie. It's just not really a horror movie. It's just a horror comedy, just in a way where people don't like it. So that's why it's my least favorite. So number 6 would be Child's Play 3. Now, Child's Play 3 to me is the one that has a great third act. Like, I really love the third act. I think that it's just got, out of the other movies that I haven't said yet, I feel like it has the most uninteresting hour of the movie. I think that Andy Barclay, who Justin Whalen is played by in this movie, is fine. Kristen is fine. Tyler is fine. These characters are fine, but they're just not... The plot, I don't think, is as interesting. It's like he's at a military school, and it just... I felt like it dragged because it was just... Because the first 3 Child's Play movies really do very similar in what they're trying to be. Like, Andy encounters Chucky. Nobody believes him. Chucky starts killing people off, and then by the end, it's Andy fighting against Chucky. So, the third time I felt like wasn't the charm, if I could say that weird way. And Don Mancini, who wrote all of these films, literally, this movie came out 9 months after the second film. Like, that's insane. And it's not like a Scream 2 thing, where Scream 2 I just reviewed again, where that was actually a really fantastic sequel that was made a year after the first one, and it was actually that good. Like, that's awesome. This one wasn't as good as Child's Play 2 at all, but this one was totally fine. There's things I really do enjoy about it. I just think it's not as interesting. I think it's pretty boring. First hour is pretty boring. I think Chucky is fun. He's fine. Justin Whalen, his only appearance as Andy, is fine. And these characters are fine. They're just not as interesting as the first 2, if you go in order wise. So that's why Child's Play 3 is my number 6, because it's just not very memorable. It's not as memorable as the other ones. It has a good third act, but the first 2 acts for me really do suffer. Now let's be really controversial here, I guess, and put my number 5 would be the first film. The first one, I love the first film. I think it's a great first starting film for this franchise. I love the fact that this first one, people going into this, the first movie in 1988, like, they wouldn't have known that this could just be Andy that's the killer. How do you not know it's Andy? And he's just saying Chucky did it. And I love how it has that slow build-up where it's like, is it Andy or is it Chucky? Because that scene at the beginning could have been a fake out with Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray dying. Like, that could have just been a fake out to make it seem like the kid couldn't be the killer, but he is. But I love that he's not, but I loved how this did a great build-up of that. And I thought Chucky in this is pretty scary. Like, he has the least humorous moments in this movie out of all of them. And except for, like, the scene at the elevator where he says "fuck you" to the older woman whenever he goes up the elevator. But it doesn't have much humor to it, which I think really does give this a run for its money, or a run in terms of the franchise's money for being the most serious one out of all of them. So I still really enjoy this one. I love Catherine Hicks as Karen. I think she's a great, like, I mean, it's her and Andy are the main characters, and Mike Norris, but I love how she's the focal point of the movie, where she is the one who encounters her son and, like, what's going on with him, and then she encounters Chucky, and then she and Mike Norris go out to investigate, and then she's basically around every scene. So I really do love her as the main character, even though her and Andy and Mike Norris are the main characters, and Chucky, of course. But I really love Catherine Hicks in this. She's awesome. She's so great. Everybody's great in this movie. It's got some good kills too. Like, I think that it does a good job of being more subtle than the other ones, even though I love the other ones. So I love how I think this is just an awesome first film. So that's why it's only my number 5. Funny enough. So my number 4, let's be controversial again, shall we, is Cult of Chucky. Now, this one is more watchable than the first one. I think that this one is more fun. I think that this one is effective in a lot of ways. I think that even though the first one is the only one that does a fantastic job of being more subtle, this one is not. It's a blend of being serious like Curse was, but it has some silliness to it. And I really liked how Nika in this movie, like, her character in particular, like, I loved how this is the second movie with her, and she has the most complete, like, story arc to her, in terms of, besides Andy Barclay, like, she's the only one who, like, actually has, like, a story and a plot in these movies. And I like that her transformation up to the end of this movie, whenever she becomes Chucky. I love that. That's so cool. And Fiona Dorff is just awesome in this movie, like usual. Like in the last one, like in Curse, she was really amazing too. And I thought that she was just really, really on it in this one as well. I thought that using the multiple Chucky angles is awesome. I thought that seeing Alex Vincent come back as Andy is great. I liked the ending. I thought that the ending is probably the reason why I put this over the first one, just because I really do love how they went somewhere different with this one. Whether you love it or not, because this movie's kind of mixed on fans, I guess, but every movie is. People like to bitch. But I think that this one is just so incredibly fun. I think these characters are so fun. I like Nika a lot. I thought that she was a great new, like, this is her second movie, but she's great in this one as well. I think the kills are all really gnarly, really awesome. I think Chucky is great. The use of multiple Chuckies was an awesome twist. The use of Nika becoming Chucky possessing her, is a great twist. And I feel like that's why I put it over the first one, because in terms of entertainment, it does so many different things. Like, I love how it did all these different things that, whether you love them or hate them, I loved it. I think that it just does a unique job of that. I think this is a very unique one in the franchise. Daring even, I'd say. Very daring. Very daring one in the franchise. Now, my top 3. Now, this is where I'm gonna rank them, but all 3 of these movies to me are equal. I can't choose between one of these. I don't know why I think I could, because this is so hard to rank these 3 movies. So I'm gonna say my top 3, but all 3 of them I think are equal, if that makes sense, because I can't choose. I really can't. So my number 3 is Child's Play 2, which is just a fantastic sequel. So many people say this, one of the best horror sequels ever. I agree. I love this movie. I love Chucky. I love Andy again. I love Kyle. Kyle is a great new character, one of my favorite characters in the whole franchise. I loved how fun this was. I loved how it did the same thing like the first one, but it's just as interesting, just as fun, with a little bit of humor, more humor added into it. So this is way more watchable and entertaining, and I think that, like, than the first one, I guess, if I'm doing it in order. So I just loved this movie with these characters, with the kills. The kills are good. Like killing off the teacher with a yardstick. Chucky's lines are great. Whenever, again, in the school scene, whenever Andy's locked into the classroom, and Chucky's in the closet, and Andy goes and peeks his eye into the closet, and then he sees Chucky's eyes, and then he tries to open the window, and then Chucky just cracks me up, and he's scary, but he's funny too, because Brad Dourif does a good job of being scary and funny at the same time. Chucky in that scene when Andy's trying to get out of the locked classroom, and Chucky's trapped in the closet, Chucky literally says, like, "Come on, Andy, let me out. I won't kill anybody else, I promise." And then he says, "Now open the goddamn door." And then he says, "Let me out, you little dick. Let me the fuck out." Like, it's so funny because he's just such a, like, I think these lines he does say, like that line in particular I just said, is scary, but it's really funny. I think that this does a fantastic job of being a balance between humor and horror, because that line is really, really hilarious, but it also, the way he speaks in that tone is scary, but it's really funny. It just cracks me up. He reminds me of Freddy Krueger. Now he can be funny and scary at the same time. And I love the final act. The final act is so great at the toy factory. That's just so memorable, so interesting. I love that they just up the ante like of the last one. I just think that it's so great. And I love how Chucky dies by getting his head blown up like a balloon. Like, that's just so fun. Again, just does a great job with horror and humor. It's a very good mix of horror and comedy. As opposed to, say, something like Seed of Chucky, which is just comedy, or Curse of Chucky, which, for the most part, Curse of Chucky or the first one are serious horror, for the most part, with moments that are humorous, but they're almost just horror. So I love that. So Child's Play 2 is my number 3, even though I love these 3 movies I'm going to speak of in particular, my top 3. So number 2 is Bride of Chucky. Now, Bride of Chucky, in terms of style, in terms of fun, in terms of Jennifer Tilly, this is hands down one of the coolest, funnest horror sequels I've ever seen. I just love the fact that everything about this movie works. The soundtrack, the characters, the kills. The kills are brutal. The characters are awesome. They're fun. The style. I love how Ronnie Yu, who did Freddy vs. Jason as well, which is a very stylistic looking movie as well, does the same thing in this, where he gives it his own identity of style, of fun, of humor. This, like Child's Play 2, does a fantastic job of humor and horror. Like, for example, a good use of blending humor and horror is the scene where they're spoofing The Godfather, where Jesse and Jade are getting married in that little cathedral, like that little rundown cathedral where they're getting married and nobody's there. While they're doing that, it's getting Chucky, and Chucky is killing Kincaid in the van, literally, like, stabbing him while the guy is reciting the lines to Jesse and Jade to get married. And it's funny how they do something tonally like that, where it's like The Godfather, but it feels humorous and it feels really fresh just in that way. And Jesse and Jade are good main characters that work well with Chucky and Tiffany, even though they don't know for the most part until the end that they are alive, but they do a fantastic job of being just these characters that are like the audience, where they're just cool new characters that were only in one movie, which is unfortunate, and I don't think they'll come back. Maybe Nick's the bill, but Katherine Heigl is so big that I don't think she'd come back for this. I don't think she'd want to do something like, in her mind, probably something really not to what she'd want to do. I mean, I don't know, maybe she's a nice person in real life, but sometimes she doesn't seem very nice in like interviews and stuff, Katherine Heigl. But she's great in this movie, and so is Nick Stabill. They're both great. Brad Dourif, again, just fantastic. Jennifer Tilly is one of the coolest additions to a horror movie ever as Tiffany. She is Chucky's equal, and I love how they're so fun together. They've got such great lines, such great banter. They're both as insane as each other, and like, I love how they kill each other literally in this movie and Seed of Chucky, and like forcefully like love each other, but then they want to kill each other again, literally kill each other. Like I just think that's so fun and so entertaining. This just gave such a great tone, such great characters, such great kills, such fun moments. This is the most fun I think out of any of the films. So I love Bride of Chucky as well. And my number one, even though these top three are my favorite, my number one would be Curse of Chucky. And I think the reason I put Curse at number one, even though Child's Play 2 and Bride of Chucky are so fun, so interesting, have so many awesome things about it, I love that Curse of Chucky did what the first movie did, but made it better, honestly. I truly think that this is better than the first one. I love the first one. The first one's a fantastic first one. But I love the fact that this starts out with, again, like, it's after Seed of Chucky, so tonally it's so interesting seeing a difference. Because it's 9 years later, this girl, Nika, gets, like, her and her mother get this Chucky doll, and then Chucky kills the mother, and then Nika, who's this paraplegic girl, has her family come in, and Chucky starts to kill them, while you realize that there's this secret dark past between Nika and Chucky. And I think that in terms of a movie and in terms of story, this had some of the best in any of the films. This had full character story and arcs to it, with Nika, with the mother, and with Charles Lee Ray. There's so many fantastic moments in this movie that are fantastically acted. The kills are insane. I think they're so good. I think these characters are so interesting. Even if they're unlikable, their actors' performances are great. Like Danielle Basutti, who plays Barb, this woman who is a bitch character. Like, this actress does such a fun job of being such, like, she's a person you love to dislike. Like, I think that she's that good of an actress that you just love to dislike her in this movie, and I think she's so good. And Fiona Dorff is fantastic as Nika as well. Chucky, Brad Dourif is just, again, amazing. And I love how this builds up like the first one. And, like, Chucky doesn't say anything until, like, the last, like, the third act of the movie. And whenever we get the reveal of what happened, like, why there's a connection 25 years ago, Nika was, like, Nika's mom was pregnant with Nika, and Charles Lee Ray killed her, Nika's father, and took Sarah, Nika's mother, and literally trapped her and put her into hiding, and, like, tortured her and, like, kept her there. And it, in terms of, like, acting, it's some of the best acting in the franchise. Whenever you got that scene where Charles Lee Ray, human, is looking at Sarah, who he's tied up and she's pregnant, where she calls the police on him, and then he says, like, "Are you gonna destroy this family?" And then she just screams, "You destroyed my family!" And then she spits in his face. And then he just gets that knife from the first movie, and he gets it up to her stomach, and you don't see it, but he paralyzes Nika because he stabs her in the womb. But he says, like, "You know what, I've always had a thing for kids," and then he just stabs her off screen. And that those acting moments and that scene alone was incredible for this type of horror movie. I love the acting in this movie. This is the best acted out of all of them. I just love everybody's performances. I love the kills. I love Chucky. I love Nika. I love all these side characters. They're all fun. They're all interesting. It does a great job of being, and it's a direct-to-video movie. So is Cult of Chucky as well. They are direct-to-video movies that have the quality of a theatrical movie and how they look. Like, they look theatrical. They've got cinematography that equals theatrical. And I love that Don Mancini could do that after Seed of Chucky didn't make that much money, so then they couldn't make any more in theaters, or didn't want to. So they went to the direct-to-video route. And this looks incredible for a direct-to-video route. It's Giallo-like in some ways. Just how this movie is filmed, how it's shot, how it looks. The use of the house is great. How it looks. The use of Nika, this paraplegic girl who can't run away from Chucky, is such a great idea. And they used it in Annabelle Creation 2 for the girl who has polio. Like, I love that they create so many things in this movie that make it so memorable, so interesting, with some of the best acting, some of the best kills, some of the best... Visually, it's one of the best looking ones, this or Bride. And it just is overall incredible, and I love this movie. So that's why it's my number one, even though 2, Bride of Chucky, and Curse of Chucky are my favorites. I can't choose between these 3. Like, I seriously can't. They've got so many great things about them. Tonally, they're different, but they've got so many fantastic tones in all of them. I love Bride for being this horror comedy. I love Curse for being this super serious, for the most part, horror movie that's actually creepy and scary. And then 2 is just such a fantastic sequel. Everything about it is fantastic. So that's why I think that those 3 are my number 1. I can't choose. Don't make me choose, please. But I love this franchise, and I love all these films. And I thought I might as well rank them because they're going to do that reboot. However that's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be good or not. We'll see, but as of now, if we get any more Brad Dourif Chucky movies, I hope we do, but I'm going to be really sad if we don't. If we just get that reboot and it's not good and then it fails, I hope that we get more Brad Dourif ones. And Brad Dourif's like 70 years old or older, so we've got to give him some more Chucky movies before he goes. Like, I want to see more Chuckies. Not the reboot. Even though the reboot, I'm interested to see what it's going to be like, but I don't know. It might not be good. It might just be really mediocre, but we'll see. I haven't seen it. It hasn't been made yet, so who knows what it's going to be like. But as of now, this was a fun video. I love talking about these films. I'll talk about them till I die because I love the Chucky franchise, one of my favorite horror franchises. So anyways, this was very fun to talk about, so thanks guys for watching. Check out my other stuff. Check out my videos for all the other Chucky movies. I've talked about them all in full detail, so I tried to shorten it on this one. So check out the other ones, check out my stuff. Thanks guys for watching.